The Eaton Fire has devastated the town of Altadena, California. At least 4,000 buildings have been destroyed or damaged in this unique community in the foothills of the San Gabriel Mountains, just north of Pasadena. Among the 42,000 who are now homeless, saddened, and grieving the many losses this community has suffered is Rene Amy. These are pictures of Rene seeing the rubble of what was once a gorgeous urban rustic historic home nestled in a unique green space. Rene is with us now, and I'm so glad you are joining us today. I'm also very sorry for the loss of your home, Rene. Can you tell me about what attracted you to the Altadena community in the first place?
Well, I've lived in the area for about the last 40 some odd years within, as one might say, spitting distance of Altadena. And Altadena has, as you mentioned, and I'm glad you did, really a unique characteristic. It is probably, because I was thinking about it after the fact, one of the most diverse communities in the LA area. And people think everybody who lives in LA is a millionaire. And yeah, we've got a lot of those in Altadena, a lot of them. But we've also got community members who were victims of redlining back in the day, who found Altadena as a sanctuary for living there as basically a large and burgeoning black community, historically black community. And some of the folks who are displaced now, they have nothing, probably couldn't afford homeowners insurance or renters insurance or didn't have it. I'm very fortunate to have had amazing insurance, but we have all kinds of people, a quirky art community, dedicated nonprofit people. It's really a vibrant community, and one that I personally have worked in to develop a sense of community in over the last decade or so.
Really a rich history there. And, you know, take me back to earlier last week, where you were when the alert was first, sent out to people that they needed to evacuate. And what were your thoughts at the time?
So I'll tell you, I managed to pre-alert, if you will, because my neighbor had been over in Hawaii for over a month and was coming back, called us, I want to say around 10, saying that her brother-in-law, who was washing their house, had been concerned, hey, we may need to do something. So they arrived at midnight and told us that they were evacuating. And I was looking and monitoring then the evacuation maps, and everything on the east side of Altadena, was a question. And as I monitored that over the coming hours, what I noticed is that it went further and further east. And then all of a sudden, if you will, it came west. And we got the alert at approximately 3 o'clock. I had signed up for Nixle at night, which was pretty weird. But we also got a regular phone alert saying, time to evacuate. And from that, we then loaded up basically, the fast things that you think of. And I now realize some of the things we should have gotten and didn't. But we got out and managed to think we were going to be able to stay in Altadena in a friend's apartment. And the only challenge there was it didn't have power. It wasn't in evacuation mode. How in the world could fire get down as far? We were thinking we're going to be fine. So I went back to get some HEPA filters, air filters to deal with all that smoke, and a backup battery pack, to help run them. And fortunately, with a hard drive for my computer, went back, grabbed those things, ran out. And I have since learned that within a few minutes, just a few minutes of my having left that area, it was all up in flames. So it was scary. And one of the biggest challenges that I saw, and I can understand the challenge, fire trucks driving around past active fires. Literally, when I got back to the friend's apartment, there was a car fully engulfed. Within a minute or two, maybe 3 or 4, a phalanx of 6 fire engines appeared, stopped, watched, and with it still fully engulfed, and with sparks and literally explosions occurring within the car, sending up white-hot sparks, they left. And I was flabbergasted as to why they would do that. And later, when I came back, I saw that, yeah, some of the nearby buildings had actually caught fire. So the initial response was simply overwhelmed. And we all now know that my initial thought was, they must be out of water. Turns out to have been right, as insane as that seems. So, you know, and I went back in, I walked in on Tuesday. I think the early pictures you see, I don't know what all you have, I can't see that. I walked in on Tuesday, and the neighborhood was still on fire. I was hearing explosions around me, and there was thick smoke. So I didn't want to stay long, but I did walk back to see that my house was gone. But what I noticed was that there were still structures standing, some of them, typically stucco houses. When I went back with a CNN reporter on Friday, I saw that almost all of those were then gone. So I want to let people know from the hood, so to speak, from Altadena, that if you got in early, whatever you saw, it may not be there. And since they're not letting people in, that can be a challenge.
Yeah,
But
I mean, you
I don't
really,
want to dismiss.
sure, Renee, you really are setting the stage there, how overwhelming all of this has been for residents, for firefighters.
Well, and
how...
I'd like to point out,
Go ahead.
I just want to point out, if I can, people will think, you know, well, yeah, they get wildfires all the time. The founders of Altadena, the Woodbury brothers, their house was still standing. It was substantially higher up than my house, closer to the foothills. It's a wood frame building, et cetera. I don't know if it's there now, but Altadena has never, within, you know, the U.S. expansion into that area, seen a fire like this.
I mean, that community and so many others there in Southern California that are now in the midst of these fires never anticipated really having to face this kind of devastation. So I wonder, Renee, you know, and I'm so glad that you're able to tell us a story and paint the picture for your living experience and now your experience after this devastation. But, you know, you for a very long time have been a volunteer helping other people get clothing, food, and now here you are in that situation, getting out with just a few items, the clothes on your back. I understand your eyeglasses are broken. Your hotel assistance, I'm told, ends this evening. There we go, right there. So how are you managing and planning to handle things moving forward?
Well, and actually, I have to say, I feel bad in a way, and I apologize. In the background, I'm at a random Starbucks, you know, the things that go wrong that you don't think can, and so somebody's rocking out to a stereo. But yeah, and I just forgot your question, I got to admit. But
how are you going? How are you going to move forward? I mean, you've lost so much, like so many.
Well, and I don't know. I know. You mentioned the idea that I'm losing hotel assistance. That's not actually true. I am very, very fortunate to have an extremely wonderful insurance policy. I had no idea how wonderful it would be, and I'm not going to mention the company, but you know, I am incredibly fortunate, I think, because they're going to pick up until I can find a new place. They're going to pick up the cost of a similar size Airbnb. And so, you know, to me, that is, because I was at the convention center, Pasadena Convention Center, actually with that humanitarian aid organization you mentioned, the global humanitarian aid organization called Shelterbox, and they're all about providing assistance to people essentially living the worst day of their lives. And I went through a Shelterbox Ambassador Field experience where they try and give you a sense of what it's like. But until you've actually experienced it, which I now have, you know, there is a little bit of irony there. But it's incredible to see first, and I've got to give kudos everywhere. It's incredible to see the response from the community. I have literally been now overwhelmed with donations of clothing. It's absolutely wonderful, but I had to run to a Home Depot and pick up some, you know, black and yellow boxes to stuff it all into to be able to move to you know, so I've actually been burdened. But the people in those shelters and the people with no other resources, and I just want to say, I know you're going to make me stop me, but I just want to say, we are Altadena strong, and we will rebuild. And that's an important message, not only to the community members who lost their homes, but to the world. I am absolutely resolved that we will not be another Paradise, California. We will not be one of those disaster zones that everybody talks about and not come back. We will come back. I am absolutely dedicated to that, and the world will know that very soon, as I let one of your reporters know. So,
well, Rene, Amy,
thank
I
you.
know so many people appreciate your optimism and so much that you have done for various communities. And now it's so great to see that so many want to assist you and are doing so. And even though very unfortunate circumstances, it also sounds like you have had a very good set of circumstances involving a good story to tell with your insurance company. But Rene, Amy, thank you so much. All
Yeah.
the best to you and to all of your fellow neighbors there in Altadena. All the best.
Thank you, and thanks to CNN. The pair of shoes I'm wearing right now, I got, because the ones I had, the only pair of shoes I owned were just filthy and covered with soot and all that. And the photographer who went up with me and took probably some of the pictures he saw gave me a pair of his shoes, and I'm wearing them now. So
Oh,
CNN is
that's a
actually,
beautiful touch.
maybe not thinking of it, but has provided me with assistance. And I think you're going to be incredibly important as this all moves forward. So
Well,
thank you.
collectively, we are so glad to be able to help in any way. Thank you so much, Rene. All the best to you. We'll be right back.